saving jobs by sharing pain. On a day that brought news to hundreds of thousands of new job losses, economics correspondent Paul Solman looks at the sacrifices some people are making to avoid more layoffs. His report is part of our series on making sense of the financial crisis.
At the Selmer Brass Instrument Plant in Elkhart, Indiana, Bob Stem was doing his best to sell us a shiny new trombone by playing the PBS Siren song. When last month's jobless rate came out, we showed how stalled RV sales had ravaged Elkhart. But the town is also famous for musical instruments. And that business, too, is, like my trombone tryout, more than a little flat. As school budgets have shrunk, so have school bands, driving down sales. The last time the company was under siege from Chinese competition 3 years ago, it cut wages from about $23 to $18 an hour and eliminated piecework, by which the fastest workers earned much more. The cuts prompted a strike that still drags on, though just a few ex-workers still man a makeshift protest shed across from the plant.
Because we're still holding out, asking for a fair negotiated contract.
But in this crisis, Selmer was making more horns than the market would bear. So it tried a new approach, what it calls pain sharing. Instead of cuts in hourly pay or massive layoffs, CEO John Stoner suggested cutting the work week.
We felt pretty comfortable that with everything else going on in the Elkhart community, knowing people and neighbors are losing jobs, that they would say, I'd rather have a job even 4 days a week than not having a job.
With layoffs and a wage freeze for higher paid salaried workers, some 25 jobs have been saved in a factory of 125 line workers, one of whom is Ryan Porzelius, fiddling here with a flugelhorn.
This way more people get to work. You know, I'm not a selfish guy. I don't mind giving up a little for the greater good of the whole, you know.
Stephanie Artley, who came back to work after striking for a year, makes sure the trombone slides.
You know, it's kind of like who gets in the lifeboat, who doesn't get in the lifeboat. So I think it's better if we all get an oar and just kind of paddle along, keep each other floating. This
pain sharing is the flip side of a notable trend in American business in recent years, gain sharing. It's been on the upswing since the 70s, says economist Richard Freeman.
And it turns out almost 50% of American workers have some form of these sharing arrangements.
So it's stock ownership?
Or profit sharing, and some people will have stock options as well.
Compensation is thus a lot more flexible than it used to be, rising in the good times, falling in the bad.
Is that buffering us from the downturn?
I think yes. And so we would see jobs going even faster if it wasn't for this kind of buffering.
Buffering? Because if compensation automatically shrinks whenever share prices or profits drop, the company saves money and isn't under as much pressure to slash wages or lay people off. Boston nonprofit Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center has no stock or profits, but is going Selmer one better.
I mean, what's the annual gross?
$1.4 billion.
$1.4 billion?
Yeah.
In March, CEO Paul Levy faced a $20 million deficit as cash-strapped patients put off care and funders pulled back, threatening 600 jobs. He convened a series of open meetings.
I said to the staff, I'd really like to avoid layoffs to the extent possible because it's a hard time for people to get jobs. And many people's spouses have already lost their jobs, and we don't want to put folks through that. In addition, I said to them, I'd like to do what we can to protect the low-wage earners in the hospital, the housekeepers, the transporters, the food service workers, who face a particularly hard time just because of their income level. And the response from people was overwhelmingly positive.
In fact, meeting after meeting broke out in uproarious applause. Levy actually choked up.
I couldn't talk for a little while because it was very moving. Remember, these are people, I'm talking to a group of people who are worried about getting laid off themselves, who are being told that they're not going to get raises, that their benefits are going to be cut. And I'm saying to them, would you please give a little more so that the people at the low end of the wage scale will be held harmless by what we're about to do.
Levy received 648 employee emails suggesting cuts that have saved $16 million so far. A halt to 401k matches, no more free BlackBerries, less comp time, pay givebacks from executives like Levy and the 12 chiefs of medicine like Surgeon Mark Gephardt.
From the Chiefs Group, we were able to come up with $350,000 as a donation by taking a cut in our salary to put back into the hospital to try to save jobs.
450 low-wage jobs have been rescued thus far, like Ella Ryan's in food services.
I would have been very devastated because after I've been working here for 23 years, and with the economy right now, I wouldn't know where to turn to find, another job.